Oh,
All right, so we'll go ahead and call the July 26, 2021 meeting of the Littleton Conservation Commission to order. And our first item on the agenda for tonight is the approval of meeting minutes. It looks like we've got a draft from our last meeting on July 12th.
and I got some comments from Kyle.
Yeah, nothing major.
Does anybody else have any comments, omissions, corrections?
Make a motion to accept the minutes from July 12th, 2021 as amended by Kyle.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all those.
I will do the roll call, Andrew.
Oh, thank you, Carl.
Carl Melberg, aye. Kyle Maxfield.
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Andrew Samarco.
Andrew Samarco, aye.
Brian Crowley.
Brian Crowley, aye.
Julie Rupp.
Julie Rupp, aye.
Chase Gerbig.
Chase Gerbig, aye.
Unanimous.
Perfect. All right, so moving on into our administrative discussion for the evening. Our first item on the agenda is election of the new chair. Did we want to wait until Sarah was at this meeting or is Sarah here?
Sarah probably won't be here until what, late September, early October, something like that.
Oh, that's right.
Even virtually, Amy?
Yeah, she is swamped at camp.
Okay.
At least the last time I spoke to her, she was out for the summer.
And she's retaining like co-chair, right? Like she's been co-chair for a while.
Yeah.
Or is interested in retaining. Okay.
But not being chair because she's away for the summer.
Yeah. So I would nominate Carl.
I'm not putting my name up for nomination.
I don't know if that's how that works. Didn't we keep Matt around against his under duress?
I was actually going to nominate Julie. I'm not just saying that because you nominated me. I just, I just feel you'd be really good as a chairperson. That's just my 2 cents. We should have a discussion.
Well, in the interest of having a discussion, then I very much, sorry, Julie, would very much support her taking the chair position if it worked for her schedule, etc. I agree, Carl. I think she'd be great at it. If it works for her. But also, I think we should. I'm interested to hear what Julie has to say on the matter.
Yeah, I agree with all that too. But I wouldn't say that unless Julie was also willing to accept that role.
I would support Julie's nomination as well.
She's speechless. There she is.
Yeah, I'm double muted. Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly willing to fill it. Just some of the recent some of the recent issues from a schedule standpoint I'm a little concerned about. But I guess, I could at least do it till Sarah gets back, because I feel like we should retain Sarah. And I think having multiple, really I'd support any of the rest of you as well. So there's that.
I also don't see why you couldn't also vote for a temporary co-chair. So you felt like you had a backup, Julie.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, we can certainly handle that on a rolling basis. You know, there's no need for you to have 30 some odd years of longevity as the chair.
I know that's the standard, right?
Right? I mean,
Seems to be,
I
seems to be the
would,
standard.
I would suggest Andrew as a co-chair and have, Sarah's always been kind of the backup too, but she's obviously not here in the summers, but during the summer, I would suggest Andrew as a potential backup.
Andrew is certainly good at running our meetings.
Did you see the translator? Instead of Andrew, it said Hinduism for some reason.
Oh, interesting.
Turn that off.
Interest rate that off. That's funny. Yeah, these captions are interesting.
Can you guys hear me now? I think my phone's.
I
Yes.
can hear you now.
Oh, now you're muted again.
You just went back on mute.
There we go. Phone's terrible.
We can hear you again.
And you're gone again.
No,
There we go. Now I'm back.
Don't touch it.
no, say don't touch stuff.
I gotta find the link to get on my computer here to do this.
Would you be willing to serve as co-chair, temporary co-chair, Andrew, while Sarah is out, away?
So, oh, sure. I could do that.
Anybody want to make a motion if you're ready?
I'll make a motion that we put forward Julie Rupp's name for the chairperson of the Conservation Commission, and Andrew Samarco as a backup chairperson during the summer months that Sarah is not available.
Someone
I'll second that.
All right, all those in favor, Carl Melberg, aye. Kyle Maxfield,
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Andrew Samarco,
Andrew Samarco, aye.
Brian Crowley,
Brian Crowley, aye.
Julie Rupp,
Julie Rupp, hi.
Chase Gerberg.
Chase Gerbeck, aye.
It's unanimous. Yay, we have our chair people.
So Julie, do you want to take over the meeting or let Andrew run with it?
I think Andrew can run with it. I'd be happy with
Julie,
it.
I'm a little wobbly with this phone tonight. Maybe you should.
Oh,
Oh,
that's a good point.
okay.
for it.
All right, I can also do that. All right, so what is it? 7:42. We have a few minutes. Next item on, is there anything, Amy, that's more important to bump up to the top in this 3 minutes, or can I just go down the line?
I think just go down line. I also have a bunch of stuff to add at the end too, unfortunately, so.
Perfect. Okay. Emergency action at 3 Sawyer.
Just an update, that was the driveway that was having the sinkhole. They did the work, this was Sean Keenan. They did a really nice job. They were, excuse me, had to pump it so they could do it in the dry, and they put in a concrete wing wall, but then fronted it with the stones that were remaining without pushing it out at all. And there was a little bit of sediment when they released it all, but then it's running clear. So they did a really nice job, and they will be filing a notice of intent, sort of an after-fact permit for the work. So we have it on the books.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I remember that from last meeting. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. Looks like we have a few requests for certificate of compliance. 56 Harwood.
Yeah, 56 Harwood is all done. The grass grew like crazy and the erosion controls have been removed. It was all just sort of flat, fairly straightforward work by Kyle Mann.
Saw that yesterday. I was surprised at how thick and green that grass was already. It looked,
When he called me to come look, I said, no way. But yeah,
yeah, just from the road, that entranceway that they had looks great.
Okay. So it sounds like that one's ready. Amy?
I believe so, yes.
Kyle, you saw it?
Yeah, I saw the construction access leading to the backyard. I imagine if that's okay, then the backyard looks similar.
Okay. Someone want to make a motion?
Move that the Conservation Commission issue a certificate of compliance for 56 Harwood, DEP number 204934.
We have a second?
Second.
All right, all's in favor? Carl Melberg, aye. Kyle Maxfield,
Al Maxfield, aye.
Andrew Samarco,
Andrew Samarco, aye.
Brian Crowley,
Brian Crowley, aye.
Julie Rupp,
Julie Rupp, aye.
Chase Gerbig,
Chase Gerbig, aye.
unanimous.
All right. Great. I have 7:45. So I think we'll go ahead and open our 7:45 public hearing notice of intent, 26, 28, and 30 Cricket Lane. Is there someone here to speak to this?
Yes, good evening. This is Brandon Ducharme with David E. Ross. And we're also joined tonight by the applicants, Peter McAnespy and Susan Clark. And we've filed a notice of intent for the construction of a new single-family home. If you want, I can share my screen here just to kind of present and go over what it is we filed for.
Yep, please do.
All right. So the proposed project site is on the end of Cricket Lane. There's 3 existing single-family residences that are right up their frontage on Spectacle Pond. As you can see here, there's number 26 Cricket Lane, number 28 Cricket Lane, and number 30 Cricket Lane. All 3 residences are on small pre-existing non-conforming lots. The relative age, it's between the 1930s, and this number 26 here was built in 1960. As you can tell, this, just to kind of go over the resource areas and the limits of the lots, this pink kind of just demarks the limit of each lot. There are obviously smaller lots between 2,700 square feet and 3,700 square feet, 28 being the largest here at 3,700 square feet. This dark blue line here represents the mean annual high water for the pond, which also is a corresponding bordering vegetated wetland, which has a limit of a 100-foot buffer zone here in yellow that obviously extends beyond the limits of the lot. And this is the 50-foot wetland offset, which encompasses pretty much the entirety of the 3 lots. And what Mr. McAnespy is looking to do is he's gone ahead and he's purchased all 3 of these homes. As you can see on this plan here, all 3 of the existing homes are very tight up to the existing wetland edge. We're obviously, as I said, entirely within the 50-foot offset. The goal here, the project purpose, is to essentially construct one new single-family home. And in order to do that, we're looking to raise and demolish 3 of the existing houses. We kind of looked at a number of options to kind of situate the proposed house on these 3 lots. The 3 lots has a combined area of 9,180 square feet. So still smaller, but it allows us room to achieve several things. Number one, obviously, to site the new home. We needed to get a sewage disposal system and a viable potable water source on the property. Going through our options and obviously trying to improve the overall environmental impact here of the property is we're looking to construct a new 24 by 42 foot house and kind of situate that, further back from the existing wetland. As you look at number 30 Cricket Lane, which is primarily where this house sits, and it goes a little bit onto 28 as well. The existing home is less than 2 feet to the water's edge. You can kind of tell by the topo that there's quite a bit. It's pretty steep as you come through here. So the challenge was trying to get that house as far from the water as we could, but also, limited to or limited by the existing site grading, and trying to set it with a walkout basement, kind of elevating that basement elevation to get the first floor, it's single floor living, high enough to get the access to the high side of the lot where you kind of come off of Cricket Lane here. As I mentioned, the existing house was less than 2 feet, and this proposed location, we were able to get the house a little over 11 feet from the water's edge, and it's also quite a bit higher in elevation. That basement floor elevation is around 181, elevation 181, and the water's edge is like 171, 172. So it's still, there's quite a bit of grade change to where the house is. And then the constraints of the existing lot here prevented us from being able to situate, a traditional on-site sewage disposal system. So what we've gone ahead with here is a holding tank, tight tank. And again, there's just enough room here kind of between the proposed dwelling and the property line where it kind of approaches Cricket Lane here to squeeze the holding tank in. And then we are proposing a well kind of down at this location, which is about 39 feet from the pond, which that'll be the potable water source. There'll be an water supply line that'll supply water to the house. As we kind of look through, one of the desires here was to be able to get vehicular access off of Cricket Lane to be able to park a car. It is quite a bit of, there's quite a grade change there. So we're proposing to kind of, cut back a little bit into or just off the end of Cricket Lane there to get access for basically one vehicle to kind of come in, get off the road, park, access the building. So there is a proposed driveway here in this location. The next thing we kind of looked at was stormwater runoff, both from the house and from the driveway. And we've employed a couple of things here. Where the water is basically coming down the driveway here, we've proposed a slot or trench drain to pick up that water, as well as roof leaders and gutters to pick up rooftop runoff, which will be collected into a drainage pipe. And then we're proposing a recharge trench that'll kind of work around the low side of the house there. We did do soil testing, obviously, as part of our work with the Board of Health in order to establish kind of the estimated seasonal high groundwater, as well as types of soils on site when we were looking to get the holding tank. It's all well drained sand and gravel in this area. So it does accommodate this subsurface recharge, which will also kind of be exposed to the ground surface too. We've shown a few things here. This is our proposed stockpile area. And again, just given the fact that most of the lot is within that 50-foot offset, there really wasn't any way for us to locate that outside of that area. So we've kind of tucked it up here for a couple of reasons. Number one, this is where the lot's the flattest, as we just look at, runoff or potential runoff during construction. And it's about as far from the wetland edge as we can get. I just want to kind of recap. I mean, one of the things is we're obviously applying for a waiver to allow the work within 50 feet. One of the things we looked at was impervious area. As we look at this, the combination of the three existing homes, we have about 2,170 square feet of existing impervious area, all of which is located within the 50-foot offset. The proposed house and driveway has a total of 1,731 square feet, which overall at the after construction is 440 square feet less than what the existing impervious area is. And of that 1,700 plus or minus square feet, 1,300 is within the 50 foot. So some of that additional or that new impervious area, I should say, is outside of the 50, kind of connecting up into Cricket Lane. The three existing houses, there's a number of, just say, specimen trees that kind of go between the three existing properties. So the other thing I just kind of want to point out to show, this is the area here where we're looking to put the new house. And I've kind of marked in orange here the trees that would need to be removed in order to construct that new home. We've got 4 pine trees, an oak tree, and then there's a small birch tree there. We think even with doing all the demolition work to remove the existing houses, these stairways, retaining walls, and everything, we can leave all of the remaining trees that are kind of outside of that building footprint. And as part of that, the other thing we've done is we've proposed some new plantings. We've got a number of plantings. We've got some common juniper here. Essentially what we're looking to do is once the houses are removed, we just kind of want to just grade out the remainder of the lot and let it naturalize. We've got some common juniper where it is a little steeper, where we're tying into this steep grade here between the house and the pond, to kind of get some vegetation established on that slope. And then we've got some shrubs, some early azalea. We've got some red maple kind of along here, kind of between where the existing demolition work is going to be and the pond, to try to introduce some additional trees there. There's about, as we look at the total of trees and shrubs that we're looking to add, it's about 20 versus, I believe it's 7 trees here that we're looking, that would need to be removed in order to perform this work. We're obviously proposing some erosion control that will be employed during construction. Most of it is just going to be straw wattles, with the exception of where this is so steep in here. We've specified hay bale and silt fence just to get some additional protection, given the slope that kind of comes down. Bring that down here where the slope levels back out and is pretty flat down in that area. And then we can kind of carry back over to straw wattles. The only other thing that was identified, and obviously we filed this with Mass DEP, and one of the comments is there is bordering land subject to flooding, which is the limit of the 100-year floodplain. And the only reason why we haven't shown that on plan, and I think that's one thing we can kind of discuss with you folks, just having some local knowledge in this area, is if FEMA's gone ahead and they've identified a floodplain in this area, it's not an elevated floodplain, and essentially we're just looking at, what's depicted as approximate on a map, and when it encompasses most of this site, and kind of as we talked about, given the slope that comes through here, that doesn't correspond at all with the proposed topography. I know that there's some sort of an outlet structure on the pond, which probably carries with it an elevation that maybe has been used by the commission in the past to kind of assess where that limit of floodplain is. If looking at this and with the steepness of grades, I would imagine that it would probably be somewhere in this area here, and really the existing building at 26 would potentially be within that limit of the floodplain. Obviously, with the project as we propose it, we'll look to remove that, naturalize it. And again, we're not looking at introducing any fill in that area that would potentially lose some flood storage. I think I've about covered everything here just real quickly at this point. I'd like to just open it up, questions, comments, and provide whatever answers that we can.
Great, thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Commission members?
Hello. Good evening, everyone. I'm not sure how this works.
Oh, well, just a minute, Mrs. Lady. Is that who's talking?
Yes.
Okay, great. We're gonna take some questions and discussion from the members of the commission, and then we will open it up to public comment.
Oh, okay.
For you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Where we would, certainly be interested in hearing your comments or questions. All right. Anyone from the commission? Go ahead.
I see on the proposed plan, Brandon, that you show a deck there. Can you, or you in text, you identify a deck on the spectacle pond side of the proposed house. Can you describe
Yes.
what you're envision there and what we're looking
Yep,
at?
absolutely. So as I kind of identified initially that given the grade change across the house here, it would be a walkout basement, so obviously this, we tried to match the existing grade here in the back, and then it's a little bit higher in the front to make the grading work. So the back of the building would walk out to grade. This would actually be a second story deck, so it would be level with the first floor. And it's hard to see because even in order to, we held the elevation along the back edge of the foundation here. It's still falling away so steeply. We're proposing a retaining wall here that would also serve as kind of a permanent demarcation kind of between the house and the building. And the deck would essentially cantilever over, and there would be posts that would go down and tie in where that retaining wall was. And that porch wraps along over to the side here. It would obviously be a deck with no roof, and on the side over here, it would be a porch, so it would be covered. And again, second, what will be the first story, but as you look at it from the ground, it's a second story.
Okay. Madam Chair, do you mind if I keep going with a couple other questions?
Keep going.
Yep.
So I noticed in the waiver request, the language was, hang on, let me bring it up. You explained that this is in the public interest by removing 3 existing structures that are in disrepair to construct one house that would be located further from the wetland resource area. I think we would agree, right, that there's no grandfathering element of the waivers, right? So I'm having a hard time seeing how it's essentially an equal change. It is a nominal improvement in the amount of impervious area, but I'm having a hard time seeing how that's in the public interest. So can you flesh that out for me more completely? How is this in the public interest as opposed to a net change? And I want to draw your attention to a specific piece of language in the bylaws that say that a waiver is granted for significant net environmental improvement. And we didn't choose that word significant carelessly. So help me understand how this results in significant net environmental improvement that justifies doing this in the public interest.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, I think as you look at these 3 properties, you have 3 existing homes, all of which are entitled to be, let's just say, repaired. I'm not speaking in terms of grandfathering per se under the bylaw and the regulations, but essentially you've got 3 existing homes, you're paying taxes. The landowner has the right to improve, maybe not go beyond, but to repair those existing structures. All of which also need, as you look at it from a Title V, sanitary point of view, is they all require some sort of a viable solution to the septic, which again, there would be work required. If you were going to do any improvements at all or make any investment in these 3 houses, you would have to also find a suitable holding tank as well as a potable water source for each one of these homes. So really, as we look at the overall improvement, and again, I think it's significant, when you're looking at three properties that could potentially be refurbished and brought up to a standard that, is, worthy of being lived in. I don't know if any of you had a chance to kind of go through and look at any of these properties, but I mean, it's clear that work needs to be done on each one of these. The benefit here is we're actually looking to remove 2 of these entirely and kind of restore those areas and come up with a solution for one home that's actually further than all 3 of the existing homes from the water's edge. So, certainly, public, that can be an interesting argument to make, as you go through the bylaw, but, if you were to walk through there, I don't want to go as far to say it's an eyesore, but, there's three existing properties, to the surrounding homeowners that, would probably be beneficial to have them, cleaned up, reconstructed, in some fashion refurbished. And in this case, by having one newer home that's obviously going to provide an overall aesthetic value as well as, provide a better solution for the house in this area, I think to the overall public good is more beneficial.
And I think one of the things you hit on there, Brandon, was that public interest is fairly broadly defined, right?
Correct.
So one of the things I'm struggling with is that you're trying to argue here that it's in the public interest to take 3 houses that granted may need work, but also provide more affordable living accommodations and replace those with a single house that A, takes away housing stock in general, and B, is going to be substantially more expensive. And so I think we're looking at public interest broadly here, as you said, and it's not just the aesthetic value. And my real challenge here is, and this is more a comment to my fellow commissioners, is if we choose to go forward on this, we're really opening up the door to exactly this kind of behavior at every one of our, everywhere we've got water frontage. That is the consolidation of lots and and frankly, the destruction of small housing lots that really provide meaningful housing for a lot of folks. I'll tell you, my mind's not made up, but that's sort of where I'm coming at this from, and I'd really I hope we plan an opportunity to go see it. I think I've monopolized enough folks.
Sure, and just quickly, just to respond. I mean, I think in a lot of areas, as you look at a housing potential and you want to create homes, affordable homes, it's certainly a priority in the town. As you look at these 3 properties, and I think part of having these regulations where you get to evaluate these on a case-by-case basis, you potentially are losing 2 housing units. But as you look at the environmental sensitivity of this lot, there may be better places in town, so to say, for those housing units. And as you look at trying to balance, the need for economic housing versus also, protecting the interests of the Wetland Protection Act and of your bylaw, I think that the solution is presented here is more cohesive with your bylaw. Certainly, as you look at this house, it's slightly larger than the one that was there, but again, as you look at the overall impacts of this area, I think it is an improvement. And also, the bylaw is written for the 50 feet, but no matter what the challenge is at looking at these situations is obviously these are 3 existing structures that doesn't fit the norm of a lot of lots in town where there may be work proposed within the 50 foot. I just know in our line of work and other stuff we proposed in town, we adhere to that 50 foot and we hold it to the best we can and downscale projects and work things around. In a situation like this, essentially we're looking to work with the commission to come up with what we think is the best overall solution to allow for the repair and reconstruction, but also be environmentally sensitive to where we think we're proposing something that, yes, it's allowing work within the 50, but the overall net effect of that is more beneficial.
I don't want to get combative here, but in your description, you just presented a really rosy picture of it, but in your description, you use the words like it barely fits. There's quite a grade change. This is as far as we could get. There wasn't any other way to do this. So I think we need to keep an eye on the fact that this this is not a trivial project or a trivial replacement or repair of an existing structure. This is, as I understand it, and the way you described it, the only way that this thing goes together, because frankly, it's pretty questionable whether there should be a house here or houses here at all.
Sure. Yep.
With
Thanks
that,
for the
I'll
comments. Yep.
see. I'll shut
Well,
up.
we need to, let's need to keep this moving a bit. Are there other commissioners who have questions or comments?
Yeah, I would just want to comment that, here, I'll turn my video on, I think if it goes on, yeah. I would just want to say that I'm having difficulty squaring this with other projects that we've approved from a demolition standpoint and then a rebuild. We've generally had the person stay within the footprint, the current footprint of the house, within the 50, not expand it. And I realize you're tearing down 2 others, but if you were just focusing on the lot that your house is on, if you were to rebuild that house, we would generally want you to stay within the original footprint of the house. But anyway, that's my observation. I don't want to set a precedent of expanding a house within a 50 for a tear down. But I realize that 2 other houses are coming down, so that's why I'm kind of struggling a little bit about how I would actually want to interpret this. Anyway.
Sure. And in terms of, most, as we pointed out at the beginning, these are pre-existing non-conforming structures. And, as we do a number of these filings in terms of, looking to go to Zoning Board of Appeals, and, we're trying to achieve 2 things is, we are beyond the limit of the existing home footprint of number 30 alone. But again, as you mentioned, we're looking at, this is a little unique where we're actually looking to take down 3 structures. The other thing we're looking at is obviously whenever we move kind of a project down these lines is not to make this any more non-conforming than the existing lot. And in fact, if we can, as we're proposing to do with the wetland, is actually try to make it more conforming. So, as you look at the sideline offsets of the existing buildings, the wetlands offset, yes, we're in the general footprint. We are extending, a little bit further on this side, but we're not making it any more non-conforming than what's there now.
Yeah, Julie, this is Carl. We hold a 50-foot pretty tight, and that's been made clear by a couple of our other commissioners. It's even, it goes as far as somebody replacing a deck within that 50. We just are very tight on that 50, and to put new construction within that 50 is just a very difficult hurdle to get over. That's just my 2 cents.
Okay.
Brandon, can you describe what the existing lots have for septic at the moment? Like currently, you haven't, is something getting removed or abandoned? What exists?
Yes. Sure. So given the age of the structures, as I mentioned, these are like 1930s, and the newest one was like 1960. There's no records at the Board of Health as to any private on-site well, any potable water source, or any on-site septic. Not to say there may not be some sort of a privy or a leach pit, underground to some of these, but nothing has been identified and that we've been able to identify. So to answer your question, if during the act of demolishing these buildings, obviously, if something was identified underground, they would be removed in accordance with Board of Health standards, which if it was some sort of a pit or a holding tank, obviously that would be pumped, crushed, and filled with clean fill.
Yes, along those lines, I was also wondering if there are existing wells for these houses.
Yeah, no existing well, and that's part of the addition of this is putting a new well in, as opposed to what was most likely done was a lot of these older homes, cottages would have been drawing water from the lake or the pond rather.
Yeah, I think that's what we've seen on some recent, within the last few years, filings. They just have a pipe that goes right out to the lake. I had a question about the holding tank. Is that approved by Board of Health?
Not currently. So what we've done is obviously we've filed consecutively with you folks as well as with Board of Health. So this plan, the same exact plan that was filed with you, has also been filed with the Board of Health, and we are awaiting comments. And obviously, we'll have to go to a meeting and discuss that. But I can answer to the point of the Board of Health. You know, particularly with these homes that are, if they were drawing off the lake, you know, the two things that they're going to want to see is some sort of a solution. And again, the best solution that we come up with in this case is a holding tank, as well as, you know, it would be a great improvement to have an on-site well for potable water. And again, they'll be working with, you know, we call it's new construction, but it's really reconstruction of existing homes. So, you know, as you look at that, we'll be dealing with the maximum feasible compliance provisions of Title V, which is the State Environmental Code, and essentially coming up with and presenting to them what we feel is the best solution that we can provide given the existing constraints of these properties.
Okay, thank you. I had one other observation was it looked like you're taking out hemlock and oak and pine. And so oak is notable as, you know, a very valuable tree from an ecosystem standpoint. And I actually I've walked down, I think Kyle might have been there too. We did a like very preliminary walk, and you know, I can attest the houses are in incredible disrepair. But going back to the oak, I would encourage you to relook at ecosystem benefits as part of the public benefit piece. You know, if that's what you're going for the waiver. You know, I recognize there are a lot of shrubs and the count is higher, but there's an inherent value to something like a mature oak, you know, that just isn't going to be replaced for decades, you know, with the smaller vegetation. So I would encourage you to take a look at that. And then the other piece I wanted to not lose track of was FEMA, and we can't speak for FEMA. They're kind of their own animal. So if there's some sort of compensatory storage requirements, that would be something you would need, you know, and I think you are probably aware that their maps are their maps. Even if you feel like it's different, then you need to collect your data and write it up to try to get some sort of variance. So there's really not much, as far as I'm aware, and Amy, jump in if I'm misstating this, but I'm not aware of anything that we could do other than, you know, perhaps try to help you find some elevations if you need those. But we really don't have any say from a FEMA standpoint. You know, I would say certainly lot 26 is very low, and I would imagine that's subject to flooding. But, you know, the maps, you know, there are areas that, you know, people are surprised all the time that are included on FEMA maps. So, you know, I don't know that we're going to be able to be much help. You know, I think you would need to go look at the FEMA maps.
Yeah, I don't think the commission has set anything to date in the past. But Brandon, you could contact the Littleton Water Department because they control the outlet down there, and they probably have some pretty good information.
Yeah.
On levels and extreme levels.
Okay.
So just quick,
No, go ahead.
Oh, no, just quickly to respond to those for this track one. So I understand what you're saying about the oak, sympathetic to that. And, we've taken a first pass here at some plantings. We've identified a couple proposed red maples, but we would also be more than happy to entertain looking at maybe introducing some additional oak species. And, certainly, there's no way we can do a one-to-one replacement given the maturity of that tree, but we could look at doing a more robust tree planting to help mitigate the loss of that tree. In terms of FEMA, and again, I was just looking for a little bit of historical guidance on that, especially on these ponds where, as Amy said, where there usually is some type of control structure. A lot of times the water department, somebody may have some evidence as to some elevation. In terms of these properties, especially where it is an approximate, that is something we're familiar with. And ultimately what would need to happen is, we would have to go in and there's paperwork that we can do. And what they're going to be interested in is that topography. And just with that grade change, we basically, what we've done in the past is, we show, a conservative topographic change from the water elevation. And then what we would do is we would actually file with FEMA to get a map amendment on this piece, obviously, because it's going to come up whenever you have either an existing home or a new home. That's obviously going to entail getting a mortgage, because we're going to need to demonstrate and provide FEMA with some sort of evidence to show that whether this does or does not need any type of flood insurance.
Okay. Do any other commissioners have any questions or comments? And if not, I'll open.
I would like to say too that one of the requirements of the regs is to have an alternatives analysis, and so if you have not done that yet, it would be required to see if you can indeed perhaps, since you're crossing two lots, I don't know if the commission would consider the footprints of those two homes that are on those two lots. And I don't know, maybe it meets it already, but combining those two footprints into a square foot area and not going beyond the square footage of the existing two homes in your footprint.
Sure. Yeah. We briefly looked at some alternatives, so we could certainly provide something a little more robust that maybe, goes as far as to even kind of demonstrate or depict some of what these would look like. The first being obviously just reconstructing of 3 existing homes on the exact footprints versus, how that looks in relation to what we're proposing. So yeah, that's certainly something that we would be happy to prepare and present.
I guess, yeah, I think we would more want to see alternatives to the current house you're proposing, like one house, how you can manipulate that house to be to improve the environmental aspects of it. Addressing stormwater for one, perhaps not having a wraparound porch, just have a porch on one side, things like that. Reductions in impact.
Sure. Yes. Yep. Thank you.
Brendan, could you talk a little bit about how you cited the proposed drinking water well? Why it is where it is?
So again, we've got a couple things. Obviously, we need a setback from the holding tank. And again, trying to get it as far away from the pond as we can, and also trying to keep it down in this level area here. There is some room here as we look at the
Randy,
50
can you
foot.
blow up that picture a little bit? So we
Sure.
can see it?
Yep. How's that? So as we look at this is that 50-foot radius. Another thing to point out is there's kind of an existing walkway with a access easement through here. So, there is some flexibility to potentially slide the well this way. Obviously, we need to stay, this is the property line. We just need to make sure that we adhere to that offset as well as staying out of this access easement. We're trying to kind of keep it down where the lot's a little bit more level. You know, even as we slid it this way, I don't know if we're necessarily getting further from the wetland, but we would potentially be getting further, I guess, from the wetland over here. So certainly if anyone has an opinion on that, would like to see that move. But essentially what we did is kind of just evaluate it based on the overall offset requirements for lot lines, Board of Health setbacks, and kind of get a setback as far as we could from the wetland.
Understood. I wonder if you were to slide the well one way or the other, would you be able to save that hemlock that we talked about a few minutes ago? Is the hemlock coming out because of the water line installation, or?
No, the hemlock is kind of right in the house footprint.
Oh, okay. I thought it was closer. Okay.
So pretty much everything, outside of this immediate area, we've been able to work around the existing trees.
Brandon, now that you've zoomed in, I'm noticing the maple with 10-inch DBH is awfully close to your stockpile. You may smother some roots there.
Yeah. Yeah, trying to work between that and the well, but there's some flexibility. Yeah, maybe we could, if we did, sneak the well over here a little bit tighter, we could get a greater setback from that tree. That would be helpful.
Even at a minimum, we're providing some sort of nominal buffer around that tree, fence it off. I think we've all seen stockpiles that can easily get out of control, and they lose control. They see a tree, but they don't realize that encroaching, it will smother the roots, like Julie mentioned. So where your stockpile is going to be, it might be worth putting some sort of barrier offset around it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And Amy, do you have those BMPs that Matt provided us a while ago? Or do you have those on file? If not, I could probably find them.
Yeah, I don't have them right in front of me. They are loaded on the website, and I can email them over to you.
I think that would be helpful.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Any other commissioners with questions or comments? No? Okay. If any members of the public wish to speak, just a reminder that you need to state your name and your address before you speak, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lady Farah. I own the property at 24 Cricket Lane. I just wanted to, forgive me, by the way, I wasn't sure how it works, so forgive my earlier error. I wanted to find out more information about the construction. So, and I have a couple of questions. So if it is it a refurbishment or is it a new construction? In other words, will the height of the building be higher, or would the width be bigger? Another question I wanted to ask was, how will it affect the current easement access to the water in the parking lot?
Sure, if I may. So the house that we're proposing here would be, the reconstruction of this would be with new materials. And what I mean by that is we're not looking to reuse, given the age and the condition of the existing structures, this would be a new poured foundation with new, wood construction. So we're not looking to incorporate, any of the building materials of the existing house. The overall elevation, as you mentioned there, it probably, given the fact that it's coming up the hill, it would be higher than what the existing house is, that's kind of down towards the bottom along the water. And lastly, that cart path that runs through there, this is the existing easement, and we have worked to obviously not impede or impact that in any way.
And so one last question, please. Thank you.
Yeah, go
So
ahead.
would this commission have anything, I mean, how would how do I say this? How does this work? In other words, if I wanted to express an objection, do I just make it here, or does it have to be in writing? Is that a question that the commission could let me know, please? Thank you.
Sure. Yes. So certainly this is a public hearing. The purpose of this is to, not only have the project presented to the commission, but also hear from the public and hear comments, questions, objections. So yes, here would be the appropriate place to do that. In addition, folks also email Amy as well. If they have more information they wanted to share, or, so those are both avenues that are open to you. And this is the opening of the hearing. So you would want to keep an eye on our agenda, because it will likely continue to show up. And so the public is part of the process that way.
And I would also point out that the Conservation Commission regulates the Wetlands Protection Act and the Littleton bylaw, which really has to do with potential impacts or alteration to the wetland resources. So aesthetics per se is not an issue. This obviously also needs to go to the Board of Health, and we'll need a building permit also. So the commission's purview is a bit limited.
And I would assume ZBA as well, right?
Yeah. I would imagine ZBA.
Correct. Yes.
Right. Yeah. So that's a great point, Amy and Chase. Thank you. So, right. If you're, I heard you ask questions regarding the height of the home. That isn't typically something that we, is something that we, unless there's some impact to the wetlands or the environment that we, have much jurisdiction over. So that would be more building department or zoning board of appeals.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Welcome. Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak? Oh, no, I see you speaking.
Yeah.
GKMCK, I see you speaking, but we can't hear you. Oh, no, but I think you were unmuted for a second there. I don't know if we can ask her to unmute. Maybe Amber or Amy.
Try it now.
Yep.
There you go.
Oh, it went back to mute. There you go.
Okay, it's the opposite on my screen. I'm sorry. I'm an adjoining neighbor. I've been.
Oh, can you please state your name and your address, please?
It's Gail McKenna, 29 Cricket Lane.
Thank you.
I've been here since '82, and I have watched all those houses falling apart for years. So this comes as a pleasant thing for me. I've seen kids down there with the wrecks of the houses. And it's just been a disaster to watch all this going on. To have something decent in there with all that open land makes a difference. And my understanding, I know a lot of people have tried to buy the cottages in the past and they've not been allowed because they're just in such bad shape and so close to the waters. And it was before we had things like the tanks that are now being used. But I so much prefer having a decent house and a decent neighbors than what has been there for the past, well, since '82. I think those houses have basically been mostly abandoned for 30 years. We've had thefts down there. The houses have been broken into from people coming up from the lakeside. And it's just so pleasing to see something positive happening in the neighborhood. And I know it's hard. I know the lakefront communities are hard to deal with from a lot of different aspects, but anything that I can add or any questions that you guys might have about the neighborhood itself, feel free to contact me at any time.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak? I don't see any hands raised. Amy, do you see anything?
I do not.
Okay.
I don't know if the commission wanted to set up a site walk for people who haven't been out there. And I was actually also wondering if it would be of any help to have sort of a cross section through the house, the deck, the wall, and down to the lake shore to get an idea of how all that fits together with grades.
I think that's a good suggestion. Elevation diagram. I think
Sure.
that'd be-
Yeah, that's something we can work on.
Brandon, your client owns those 3 lots now. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, I would really like to be able to go take a look at them.
Yeah, I think a site visit would be useful. I think when I was there, I think it was just 26 and 28 that were under consideration. Okay. So do we have evening this week, midday this week? When are folks available?
And I will say I am around this week, but I'm gone next week, but you can certainly do this without me. Especially if Brandon.
Okay. Do we have permission from the property owners to? Okay, I see some thumbs up.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
And I will say that, you know, having been down there 2026, I think was partially collapsing, it looked like, and they're definitely in disrepair. So we obviously don't need to get in the house anyways.
I offer my driveway for parking because it's a
Okay.
mess down here.
Okay, thank you. You said you were number 24?
29.
29, okay, thank you. So are there others that want to set up a site visit? It sounds like Amy's available this week.
Looks like I'm good. I'm good Wednesday, Thursday in the evenings. Tomorrow could be a little tough.
Okay. Thursday might work for me.
Maybe Thursday.
I think I heard Andrew say Thursday at 5:30.
I can be available.
My phone's going a little wishy here.
Yeah, we're translating okay.
Excellent.
Okay.
Was that Kyle or Brian said that you could also do that, maybe, Kyle?
But I think I can. Yeah, that looks good for me. If we get started right at 5:30,
I should be able to make it as well.
This is Carl. I should be able to make it.
Hey, the gang's all here.
Okay, that sounds great.
So Brandon, do you want to continue this to the 9th, August 9th?
Yes, please.
Give you time.
Okay, and then I think Brandon, just as a reminder, we would need revised drawings or revised materials I think by the Wednesday before, right, Amy?
Yes.
So that's the most useful. It's hard for us to look at things last minute and have a meaningful conversation. So just a reminder about that.
Yep, sure.
It's also very useful to us if we have the same packet, understanding that we don't have the purview that the Board of Health does, the same packet of information that they have. And sometimes applicants send different things in different places, and I would certainly appreciate it if you could just give us the whole packet and we'll sort through what's relevant.
Absolutely, not a problem.
Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you, Brandon.
All right, thank you. Have a good night.
You too. All right, moving along. Oh, my window's in the way of my agenda. There we go. So I'll open our 8 p.m. public hearing notice of intent, Lot 6A, Grimes Lane. Construction of new single-family dwelling and associated work. Is someone here to speak to that?
Yes, I am. My name is Mark Slager. I'm with Allen Engineering here on behalf of the Grimes Land Investments, LLC. Grimes Land Investment owns 7 lots on the south side of Grimes Lane, some of which have buffer zones on them. House construction has already started on one of the lots, lot 7A, which is adjacent to this, but there are no wetland activity, wetland issues on that lot. There was an ANRAD done back in 2016, I believe, by Hancock Associates, and the commission approved that. That has since expired, so we had Norse Environmental out at the site this past April and reflagged the wetland areas. They are very similar to what was shown on the ANRAD plan. However, at Amy's request, you can see down here at the southeast corner of the wetland.
We don't see your screen.
Oh, okay. Let me share that with you.
Thank you.
All right. How's that?
Much better. Thank you.
Okay. So this is lot 6A, which is opposite the new development. There's an existing drainage ditch that comes down into a wetland area. The wetland area has been reflagged by Norse Environmental, and then more recently they went out to continue the wetland delineation to the south of the lot line to make sure there's no additional wetland areas within 100 feet of any proposed work on any of the subsequent lots. On this particular lot, we're proposing a 5-bedroom home and a new bituminous driveway. The site actually is basically all field. The field has been historically mowed 1 or 2 times a year. And what we're proposing to do is just keep the house as far away as we can. We've got a small corner of the house in the 100-foot buffer zone. The driveway is outside the buffer zone. And we do have the septic system located down in this location down at the southern end of the lot. We did some preliminary testing up in the northwest corner of the lot rather, and we hit shallow bedrock, so we weren't able to put the septic system up in that location. So we went to the next area that we had available, which is down at the southwest corner of the lot. The septic system has been submitted to the Board of Health or the Health Department, and we haven't heard back yet on its approval. It was submitted several weeks ago. Soil testing in the area, it's a loamy sand type soil, but there is some fractured and weathered bedrock and shale down on the subsurface. But we do have a sufficient amount of soil to get the septic system in. We're proposing a soil stockpile just in the back corner of the house. And then we've got a black line here represents the hay bales and straw wattles, or actually Filtrex silt socks is what we'll be using, along with silt fence. The outer red line represents the 100-foot buffer zone, and the inner red line represents the 50-foot no disturb zone. With that, I'll turn it over to the commission for any questions.
Any commissioners?
I would also comment that some of the work has already occurred. There's a big stockpile kind of where the leach system is, I think. I'm not exactly sure where that is, Mark, but you might want to point that out.
Yeah, I know the stockpile
But they got stuff.
Yeah, the stockpile is somewhere over here. There was a miscommunication. I was told that the ditch was non-jurisdictional. However, I wasn't aware that the wetland down here was jurisdictional. They did start construction or excavation, at least for the house, with stripping of loam. I did have them put in some silt fence and wattles because of the proximity to the drainage ditch and also proximity to this wetland here. It's my understanding that no work has occurred within the 50-foot, but the stockpile is, pretty close to where the sediment, where the silt fence is, and the foundation hole has been excavated. And then some hammering has taken place too because of the shallow bedrock.
Amy, have you looked at the flagging?
Generally, I've looked at it, and I think it's worth the commission doing a site walk on this. Back in 2016, it was agreed that the top part of that ditch was non-jurisdictional, but there are wetlands at the bottom. Obviously, conditions have changed since then because there's more drainage, I think, going through that ditch. So I think just confirmation of the jurisdictional, non-jurisdictional boundary is worth taking a look.
Even 4 or 5 years ago, it was pretty wet a ways up there, and how much was jurisdictional, I don't recall, but I'm actually a little surprised to see the wetland only go up that far.
I think that's almost about exactly where it was before.
Was it? Okay. It's possible. I just don't remember it accurately.
What type of wetland is it, Amy?
The ditch is, best case, you call it an intermittent stream. Very little wetland vegetation on it. And then where it starts, where, I'm sorry, the cat's clawing at me. Where the topo starts spreading out, the wetland vegetation starts in and becomes wider, which is where I believe that Norris was calling it jurisdictional.
Is it more is it meadow? Wet
Oh,
meadow?
yeah. Wet meadow.
Wet meadow, which is wet meadow is always very difficult to delineate. It's probably one of the most difficult wetlands to delineate. So I agree with Amy. We need to take a look at it.
I know soil probes were done too by Norse. You can see the soil probe locations here. One determined upland soil, the other one was wetland soil, and they split the difference with the wetland line. If you do want to do a site walk, I think it would be a good idea to have Maureen from Norse Environmental out there with you guys, in case you have any questions about the delineation.
Mark, are those the only two soil probes that were?
Those were the only two done on this section of the wetland, yes.
That section, okay.
Yeah, there's wetland down to the east on lot 3, which you'll see in a subsequent filing, and there was soil probes done there too. So if Maureen comes out during the site walk, she may be able to do some more probes to make any adjustments to the flag that might be necessary.
Right, and then do you know, was it early April or late April? I'm just thinking of two things. One of which is we're just kind of coming off a couple pretty dry years. And then the second piece is early April. The vegetation may not be in yet, although I guess if it's all wet meadow, perhaps it's, there are a limited number of species. So those would be the two things. Again, I think I'm just agreeing that, a site walk is warranted.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact date in April. I believe it was towards the end of the month, but I don't have the exact date. And I'm sure she did the soil probe just for that reason, because of the vegetation.
Yeah, that's a tough delineation for sure. Okay. Do any commissioners have any other questions or comments, or do we want to set up a site walk first?
I'm not sure if we have you guys talked about this, but I thought we normally didn't allow stockpiling within the 100.
Right, especially if
there's locations for that.
Yep.
I could certainly move that to the front of the lot and pull it out of the buffer zone.
Okay, thank you.
I also, along the same lines, Mark, explain to me why the septic system needs to cross that 100-foot boundary at all. Is it not possible to put it outside of the 100-foot?
Well, we have the primary and the reserve. The reserve area is slightly further downhill. I could certainly try to move it up. I also have a restriction of 10 feet from the lot line for any grading. That's a Board of Health requirement, but
I mean, just looking at it, to my eye, looks like you have plenty of room to move it outside of the 100.
Yeah, I know there's some more ledge up in this area near where the septic tank is.
Okay.
But I do have a reserve area picked out here, and I can certainly swap the primary and reserve just to get the primary outside the 100-foot, or at least as much outside of it as I can.
Right. Well, and it's notable too that the grading for the reserve area appears to go all the way to the 50. So we're talking the entire 50 to 100 is impacted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this whole area has historically been mowed, but I'm assuming the commission will require anything within the 50 feet to no longer become mowed. So.
Or at least much reduced, but yeah, that would be ideal to have it not mowed.
I know the ticks would love that.
Think we can negotiate there. If you're willing to put some bird boxes out, we can find some balance. I also had one other question. Oh, it was related to the stockpile. In terms of moving the stockpile to the front, I want to make sure, though, that as we do that, which I think is a really good idea, we don't impact the trees out front.
Correct.
In terms of those balances.
There's plenty of area up in the front here between these very mature trees. And we were very cognizant of trying to preserve the trees all along the front of Grimes Lane with positioning of driveways and utilities and whatnot.
And then one last question for you, Mark. You've shown us the footprint of the structure itself, the house itself.
Yeah.
What's not depicted in terms of decks, patios, et cetera, that's also part of the construction?
I don't know of any deck. There may be a patio with some steps. There may be a walkway out in the front. The walkway in the front obviously is outside the buffer zone. I'll double check the plans. I don't know if they're final plans yet. I was given the footprint. I don't remember seeing a deck on the plan, but I'll double check with the builder on that.
Okay. Yeah. If you could confirm that and put a notation on the drawing for us, if that is in fact the case.
Yeah.
Just
that said, a frequent issue that we have, the decks aren't depicted. And I mean, this is a large 5-bedroom house. I would imagine there's patios and decks that need to be constructed. So, let's get them.
And the reason I'd like to see it on the drawing, if there isn't going to be one, is that I want that as part of the record to make sure it's clear.
Okay. Yep.
So I have one final comment. So it sounds as though you have other lots adjacent to this that you're planning on developing.
Yes.
So I guess I'm wondering, I'd like to see all the lots shown as opposed to one at a time so we can evaluate. It's much easier for us to evaluate everything that's going in. You can do one at a time, but we would like to see the entire proposal, especially if it's the same owner.
Yep, that's not a problem. We do have additional perk tests to do on lots 3, 4, and 5. We haven't got passing perks on those yet because of high groundwater. So we are scheduled to do some additional perk tests later this week. Once we have those done, then we'll have a better idea of house sizing and positioning and whatnot. I do have some conceptual plans, and I believe Amy has a copy of one. But I'd be more than happy to share whatever I have as soon as it's available.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments from the commission? All right. Should we get a site walk set up for this? And I think, Mark, you said you wanted your Maureen, I think was her name.
Yeah, Maureen from North Environmental.
You absolutely want them there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is Maureen available in the evenings, or is she just available during the day?
I'm sure she can do evenings.
Okay. Do we want to do this the same day as the other one on Thursday?
This Thursday?
I'm not too sure you'll have time.
Yeah, I don't know if that's enough time to
Okay.
have her. I mean, I'll actually be out there most of the day.
Okay. Mark, do you want to, I guess, email Amy then when you check in with her schedule?
Yeah, I'll have Maureen coordinate with Amy.
Okay.
How's that work?
Yeah, that's fine with me. Would the commission want me there at the site walk for this one?
Yep.
Yes, please.
In which case, there's a possibility this might go after the next meeting.
I think it's important that you're there.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't think she'll be able to get there this week. It's kind of short notice, so where are we? When is the next meeting? The 9th?
9th, October 9th.
August.
Oh my God. Sorry.
Getting carried
wish.
away there, huh?
And then after that is the 20,
I changed the rules.
and then after that is the 23rd,
Gonna
correct?
pull an
I'll
all
let DEP know.
October.
Yeah, I would assume it's the 23rd.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, why don't we try and get on the following week of the 9th, and then what we could do is maybe review the wetland line for the whole site. Unless you need to have a filing for that. And then what I could do is try and prepare the filings for the other lots so that they can all be heard on the 23rd.
And I will also say that I told Mark that I wouldn't issue an enforcement order on what they did if he gets his filing in really quickly, which is why it jumped ahead a little bit of the other stuff.
Yeah. That, and we didn't have the finished perk test on the other ones either yet. So.
Okay.
And I want to be clear right now, given that some construction has already happened, and we're talking about waiting a little bit to do this. Is the soil stockpile currently in the 100-foot buffer?
I believe it is, yes.
It
Yes.
is. Okay. There is currently silt socks and fencing, erosion control fencing in place. Is that right?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Is the plan to move that stockpile then to the front of the house as we go here?
I will call them tomorrow morning.
Okay.
And see how quickly they can do it. I know they're on site working on lot 7A. And they're gonna be on site with me this Thursday doing some additional perk tests. So they'll have plenty of equipment available to, take care of that.
Mark, did you say you're going to be out there this week?
Yes, I'll be out there Thursday.
Why don't I meet you out there Thursday during the day sometime?
Sure.
And we just double check conditions right now. I haven't been out there in well over a week at this point.
A whole week, okay. Yeah, I'm not sure what time I'll be there. Probably 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. And then Jim Garaffi from the Neshoba Board of Health will be out there probably around 1 to witness any perk tests.
Well, let's maybe touch base on Wednesday or something.
Okay.
Amy, it'd be helpful to me if you happen to be out there, if you could just look at some of the areas, look at some of the vegetation in the meadow, and see if you can just put an eye on where the wetland delineation currently is, as opposed to the vegetation line, for starters.
Because the flags are there, right, Mark, right now?
Yes.
They were down last time I was out.
Mhm.
Yep, I will certainly do that, Carl.
And Mark, I just have one other question. I know you said this was meadow. Were any trees removed yet, for the stockpiling or, within the 100-foot buffer?
No.
Okay. Okay. So it sounds like I heard you're going to have the stockpile removed from the buffer zone ASAP. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. And then Amy will meet you out on site this week, and then Maureen once you work with Maureen on a date for a site walk, she can coordinate with Amy, and we'll get the commission out for a site walk. Did I miss anything? All right, so a thumbs up from Amy. Okay, great. And you're continued to the 9th?
23rd.
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 Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
All right. One more. Are they here? Oh, maybe. Yep. I recognize the. So we'll open our 8:15 p.m. continued public hearing notice of intent for 11 Scott Road, the paving of a driveway. And so I think this is hearing number 3 for this one. Is there someone here to speak to this?
I'm Kyle Burchard with Goldsmith Preston Ringwall. I appreciate the time of the commission. I see here we also have Max and Cynthia with us, the owners of the property. If I may share my screen just to try to give some additional context to the commission. I'd like to start off that way.
Yep, please do.
So in my shared screen, you can see the property. The last time I was in front of the commission, I was trying to do so over the large screen or on a board, and it probably didn't convey as well. Since then, we did have a site walk with a couple of the commissioners on the 21st of June. And so we have this kind of updated material to put in front of the commission today. So we're surrounded on this property, which is only about 0.85 acres, by various resources and covered by various buffers. So we could start with the edge of Forge Pond, which wraps around, and then near where the confluence of a perennial stream joins the pond, there's also a wetland body that comes around and casts several buffers across the property. So this is Scott Road that comes into the property from the west. The house out here looks out over the pond. The buffers cast by the edge of the pond as well as by the wetlands create the 50-foot buffer and then a 100-foot buffer zone as well. The perennial stream that was delineated also casts a 100-foot riverfront area as well as a 200-foot riverfront area that substantially covers the property. In brown, we see generally the limits of the erosion control, which also is the limits of work that is proposed. The site was developed before 1997 with a gravel driveway area as well as the house. And so what's being proposed now, just slide over and zoom in a little bit on this sheet. What's proposed now is to do some paving of that driveway to ease maintenance and to construct some stormwater measures that will help to mitigate the development of that area that had been previously disturbed. On the site walk, we identified that trying to go down the longest part of the slope of the hill out back with the water discharges from the underground infiltration chamber that's proposed seemed to not be the most practical solution. Environmentally, it might lead to some erosion, which we certainly wouldn't want to instill with this improvement. So off to the side, there's a much shorter section of the slope. As it turns out, this portion of the slope does cross the 100-foot riverfront area, And to get to the toe of the slope, we would encroach into that 100 foot about 65 feet. We're proposing an erosion blanket of a North American green blanket that would be stapled into this slope that would allow for vegetation to grow in and keep that stable as overflows from this stone filter pit would result from any excess and higher event storms that come out of the chamber from the drainage that comes through and is cleaned at first and then is stable in a stable fashion allowed to come down this slope and off into the resource areas. So in a nutshell, that's the project that we have before the commission. It's taken a little while to kind of get some of this information pulled together. We believe that this is compliant with the Wetland Protection Act as well as with Town of Littleton bylaws. So we'd like to move this forward with answering the commission's questions.
With the contour lines, I'm having trouble seeing exactly where the paving is starting and ending.
Oh, okay, so that's something I could quickly draw if it would be acceptable to the commission. Just to the proposed paving is generally following along these lines. Oops.
That color is terrible.
Oh, okay. How about a different color?
It's okay. I can see it. It's fine. I'm just why people use
Green,
that color.
red, yellow, blue. How about blue?
That's much better.
Is that better? Okay.
And I'll recognize it's not a water feature.
Right. Thank you. Yes. So in total, this is about 3,620 square feet. There's about 36,200 square feet of buffer area on the property. We're compliant with the Wetland Protection Act, and we're cleaning the water, and we're stably discharging any excess water that comes off of this improvement.
Is that area gravel right now, or what's the current surface?
Current surface is a gravel area.
And a pretty rough gravel to mud at that. It's not a nice gravel.
Hence the reason why to desiring to pave it simply from a maintenance standpoint. It's very expensive, and also that gravel tends to get plowed off year after year after year off the edge, towards the resource areas into the buffers. This is one way to keep that from occurring on a regular basis in a stable manner.
So I think I have a quick question from a procedural standpoint. I think this is the first map that I've seen that shows the riverfront depicted, and I'm wondering, there are limitations around conversion of, certain percentage of area within the riverfront. And I just wanted to double check you looked at that, and could you let us know your findings?
Yep. So, sorry, I just said that, but there's a 36,200 square feet of riverfront on the property. And this paving is 10% of that. So the rest is a structured, improvement for drainage for that discharge, the management and discharge of that. So that's within the limits of what the commission, what the Wetland Protection Act permits the commission to approve.
don't know why, for some reason, I was thinking the limit was 5, but if it's 10, then.
It's 10,
and okay.
I believe it's under 310 CMR 10.58 4D.
Yeah, I did notice the numbers before.
5,000 square feet, whichever.
Pretty much exactly, maybe. Okay, so that's what I was thinking of. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah,
Quick question on grading of the pavement itself. I know we probably talked in the past, certainly when I visited a long time ago, the area close to the house, that's this little side driveway where it starts to kind of go back down.
Right.
Yeah, right in through there. So is that what you're showing with those arrows? That
The arrows are intended, as well as with the spot shots, to indicate that this is a pretty level line and it's a grade break intentionally to allow whatever water is going down next to the house to be separated from the water that's on the pavement, so that it would all come in the direction of the drain, the deep sump, or I should say the sump inlet, as well as the recharge chamber, and the outfall direction from all of this impervious area that's proposed.
Any other questions or comments from any other commissioners? I will say, when I was out on site, it was pretty apparent that there's some runoff challenges with the driveway as it is existing now, and so control of the fines, as well as preventing the plowing off would be an improvement at this site, and it's kind of at the end of a peninsula high, and and so the fines will just drain off.
I'm glad that it will stay at least 100 feet away from the stream in terms of temperature, preserving, making sure that it will reduce in temperature by the time it gets to the stream.
Is the landscape fabric grid, what is that, like a plastic that's going to break down, or is it
It is it's probably hard to see. That's not it. There it is. This is a material that we've had a lot of success with in keeping steeper slopes stabilized. I don't know if you can see. This is blue screen. How do I? You know what? I don't know how I changed that. So
the arrow next to video, stop video. Click on the arrow next to stop video, and then you'll see choose virtual background, and you can turn it off.
I should stop here. Thank you, Max. Let me try to do that.
Oh, we've lost everything.
Well, I'm afraid, it does have a plastic mesh in it. It also has a coconut fiber. It's an 1.5 inch square, or 1.5 inch centers. So it's double woven on either side of the coconut fiber matrix, and it is stable on 1-to-1 slopes, which we don't quite have that steep. We have about 2-to-1 slopes, and it's for highly erosive areas. And the North American green product, it's not going to be very visible, I'm afraid.
It's somewhat show. Oh, it
Sorry,
showed up when there you go. It kind of shows up when it's a little farther
They go next to your face.
Yeah, here we go. No.
Is there anything that won't, contribute degrading plastics into the resource buffer zone? Is it something?
Rep.
There is stone. There is stone on fabric that could be used on a slope like this. It's somewhat difficult to ensure that that's going to remain stable over time. There are ways to get around that. But even that would be wood stakes, perhaps, to hold rock veins coming down the hillside. This slope at this location is roughly 10 feet in vertical height. There should be a healthy layer of vegetation that will grow through and hold this in place. I honestly, I don't see that this is not going to degrade ever, but it's 100% polypropylene fiber with the 100% coconut fiber in between, staked into place. It will allow for a very thick growth of vegetation to come up through it over time. And while that vegetation is getting established, it will hold the soil in place. It is just a surface treatment. It's not meant to go, deep into the soil. It seems like an appropriate treatment for occasional overflows from drainage waters that come through the system down the slope, rather than trenching down the slope with a pipe, which would be more invasive, more disturbance in that area.
So do you come and remove the plastic, or does it just stay in the environment forever?
Well, when you put it that way, I think that there is no removal. It's not intended to be removed from the erosion blanket itself. So it would stay.
With that product that you're using, some of those are actually biodegradable. What's the product that you're proposing to use?
It's North American Green C350. That's a VMAX cubed logo on it. It doesn't give me the details on what the plastic will do and if it's biodegradable. On this particular thing that I'm looking at, that doesn't ever show up in the screen. Tells me it's got 3 UV stable nets, which tells me that's not necessarily biodegradable.
Yeah, usually UV stabilizers are pretty nasty.
Okay.
I guess I would prefer if there's another option that biodegrades that's applicable for this application. I would say I would prefer that rather than plastic either permanently into the slope, or if it degrades, having microplastics or small pieces of plastic, kind of washing eventually, maybe not in the next, decade, but I would imagine in our children's lifetime. So if there's a better choice, I would encourage you to look into that.
I think that we can certainly work with a condition to have a biodegradable, non-permanent, when it breaks down, pollutant within the stabilizing blanket.
I would be okay with that.
That's good. I had a quick question about your runoff calcs. I'm having a hard time understanding why the 2-year flow would triple, the 10-year flow would double, and the 100-year flow would actually drop at post-construction. Can you help me figure out what's going on there and what I'm missing?
Well, I think it has to do with what would be the routing through that chamber. When you get to the 100-year flow, you know, there's that small amount in the chamber that is taken out initially. I don't know how to explain it exactly to you on why it
No,
is.
I'm with you. So that's kind of what I was thinking, which then begs the question of if you're going to create all of this impervious area and you're actually going to drop the 100-year flow through that point, where does the rest of that 100-year flow go?
Well, I think what happens is in the 100-year event that the ponding of the water is actually held back by the berm that's at the curb line where the inlet is, and for whatever reason that ponding is helping that water to stay and detain, and I guess over the time of the when the inflow of the water is coming through for that time period that we have it set, which is typically 6 minutes, it will create that reduction. Whereas there's not as much water ponding during the 2 and the 10-year events, and it's going through the pipes quicker in that shorter period of time, so that we end up with the higher flow for the time period that we're looking at. It's a hydrologic question. It's a good question, and
I guess what I want to confirm then. So one of the things you said that I had missed was that there's going to be berming around the edge of this. Do I understand that correctly?
That's correct. Maybe just one more look, if I could share my screen just quickly again. There is a higher point here. I'm going to just scroll down the page to look. There is a berm that's between, if we cut a section through this, and it's kind of an idealized section that also follows the outlet for the purpose of just representing it. But at the right past the curb, there is a higher point, and what the 100-year water surface elevation does is it ponds, it uses the pavement here for some storage.
Okay. Right, and now you're flow restricted through that. Okay. I got
yes, that's right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
Any other questions from the commission? Okay, and I don't see anybody from the public. All right. Do you have anything, Amy?
Nope. I would just say I don't think Chase can vote on this one because I think actually you made all the yeah, you haven't. So, but you got.
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't think I can as a Mullen won't let me. So.
Oh, because we're in our third hearing. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that the commission close the public hearing and issue an order of conditions for 11 Scott Road, Mass CEP file number 204-924.
Second.
With one condition.
One condition.
That the, what do you want to call it? The erosion control blanket be replaced with a biodegradable material. Is that, say it right?
Yep.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All those in favor, Carl Melberg, aye. Kyle Maxfield.
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Andrew Samarco.
Andrew Samarco, aye.
Brian Crowley.
Brian Crowley, aye.
Julie Rupp.
Julie Rupp, aye.
And then Chase cannot vote. Is that?
That's right. I'll abstain.
Chase Gerbig, abstain.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks very much.
All right. Thanks. Good luck. And just a
Good
reminder,
luck.
there's a 10-day appeal period technically. So just be, aware of
When I
that.
issue the order of conditions.
Once you issue them, right?
Yeah, not from tonight.
Yep.
Great.
Thanks all. Have a
right.
good night.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, very much. I know it's been a long process, but hey, we're getting there.
It's what we do.
How fun starts. All right. Bye now.
All right, take care. Okay. Whoa. Can't drag my, there we go, so I can see the agenda. Okay, so Amy, is there anything you wanted to bump first, or can I just continue with 86 Colonial?
Let's just plow through them.
Okay.
Something I think you can skip, I'll just say we can pick it up next
Okay.
time.
The next item on administrative discussion, request for certificate of compliance for 86 Colonial Drive, DEP file number 204-665.
And this is what Liz was in before 2 weeks ago to lift the enforcement order. So this is just the certificate of compliance so she can get her paperwork squared away.
Okay. And I know you mentioned you were on site. Could you just summarize again your observations?
Yeah, again, the enforcement order was there because they had impacted some wetlands, and they had 3 mitigation areas. I forget what the ratio was, but they are extremely well vegetated at this point. So this is obviously a very old filing from 204-665. So they just need the certificate of compliance to get it off the deed.
Yep. And I've done a drive-by as well and have noticed that the vegetation has come in. If there's entertain any discussion or motion.
Make a motion that we issue a certificate of compliance for 86 Colonial Drive, DEP file number 204-665.
Second.
All those in favor, Carl Melberg, aye. Kyle Maxfield,
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Andrew Samarco,
Andrew Samarco, aye.
Brian Crowley,
Brian Crowley, aye.
Julie Rupp,
Julie Rupp, aye.
Chase Gerbig,
Just go big guy.
unanimous.
Great. All right, moving along. Request for certificate of compliance, Cloverdale Boardwalk, DEP file number 204-863.
And this last, I had shown you some pictures of it 2 weeks ago, but since we were going to go out there anyway, we held it. And so Kyle has seen it. It's very well vegetated, the wetland mitigation. Sorry, and the boardwalks are all stabilized.
It looks great up there. I guess even the one question I have that I know you talked about installing some ramps at the end of it. Is that something that's happened yet, or how long? I don't think.
No, we've got
issues, right?
Yeah, we've got, and that was part of the RDA permitting that I did this spring for the stuff at Cloverdale Town Forest, Williams, and Hartwell. Sort of a 3-year plan for boardwalks and stuff. So that'll be part of that. I know Jim and Neil wants to get Cloverdale taken care of this year because it's so well used.
Okay, and so just to clarify, we don't need this file open to do the ramp?
That was a separate filing.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So if there's any discussion or we'll entertain a motion.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion that we submit or provide a certificate of compliance for the Cloverdale Boardwalk, Mass DEP 204-863.
Second.
Okay, Chase.
All those in favor, Carl Melberg, aye. Kyle Maxfield,
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Andrew Samarco,
Andrew Samarco, aye.
Brian Crowley,
Brian Crowley, aye.
Julie Rupp,
Julie Rupp, aye.
Chase Gerbig,
Just go big guy.
unanimous.
Great. Moving along, request for partial certificate of compliance, 67 Grist Mill Road, DEP file number 204-391. That's old.
It's really old. This is one of the ones where they did the road and it ended up on everybody's deeds. But the attorney actually called me back and said they don't need it. So we can just take that off.
Okay. Okay. MACC membership and handbook.
Yeah, so I can do the membership. And does anybody want the electric handbook membership or whatever? Julie, Kyle, Chase,
thank you,
Brian. All right, everybody.
Are associates eligible for that or no?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, throw me in there. Then.
Amy, is it possible to get one login and then share the password, or is that kind of cheating?
Let me check around. I know they don't like it, but I'm not sure. I don't think it's be like you guys are running into each other looking at it. Let me check. I know in Acton, we all have our separate memberships, and I actually use my Acton membership. But it's $15, so it's not a big deal.
Oh, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
And that also gets us training courses and things like that as well, right?
Well, the membership does.
Oh, right.
Which I forget what that is this year. It changes year to year. It's around the $600, $700 a year, plus the $15 for the handbook per person. All right, so I'll order those up.
Okay. Update on the Cloverdale management plan.
Yeah, so we looked at that when I went out with Kyle and Jim O'Neill, particularly about the invasive species that are starting to go, as they do, hog wild again, sort of behind his house and between the abutter. So Jim just wanted to make very sure everyone was very clear that he would like to mow twice a year, which is actually in the management plan. And he will not do it on a Sunday. And so we looked at, and I think, there's areas where he might not have to mow. He can just sort of work around. But it's like nice, grassy, sedgy area under trees back there. And the bittersweet's just loving it and starting to crop up. So he needs to mow it to keep it under control and pull it out of the viburnum and stuff, some other shrubs that are in there.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable, and that's part of the objective of that management plan is to control invasives. And if it's already in there for twice a year, it doesn't seem like there's really any issue from the commission's standpoint. If he's just implementing what's planned.
Yep.
Okay. Anyone else have any comments or? Okay. Land stewardship.
That was sort of a catch-all. I mentioned last time that Jim O'Neill basically stepped down as director. So I think that's just going to be up in the air until at least the fall when they have their next board of directors meeting and shake that out. But I think one of the big things that could potentially come out of that is how we're going to handle mowing going forward. The stewardship really is mostly the Rick and Jim show. And I think they're getting really stressed and taxed. And I think especially things like mowing, the town should be trying to take over. Highway or DPW does a pretty good job and been pretty willing. And that's basically the once a year mowing, but the mowing of the trails might be a different thing. So I think we need to have further discussion about that and how that plays in with town budgets and all of that piece of it.
Do we have, is there a preliminary list of what may fall back to the town so we can try to?
Oh yeah, I've got a whole spreadsheet that was based on what SVT had done with us about, mowing. So it goes through all the areas, who's mowing what, how often, or who's not mowing what. So it's all in a spreadsheet, and a lot of it's in the land steward's pile right now.
Okay. Is any of that the haying? Oops, sorry, Anna.
That's part of it too.
It is part of it. Okay. Thanks. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Anna.
Oh, It's all right. I was just saying that I know that the Clean Lakes Committee does maintenance like of the wetland park and things like that. And I'm not sure if that's exclusively because they originally funded it, or that maybe they could take on other maintenance activities as well. I mean, that's another possibility that the
the water department, well, the Wetlands Park was a whole confab and a whole big agreement between who owned it, who was going to do the work, and who's going to pay for it. And it's clear that water department, Clean Lakes, owns the maintenance of that. They have helped me out with some of the mowing on Newtown Hill. Basically, there's a long trail across the field and then into the next field. And Danny Hayes the front, actually he hayes both of those. And so they did some mowing around the garden for free, but they contract out. They don't do it themselves. Okay. So we'd have to piggyback on their contractor or something, or get our own, or it's just a little bit of everything that's just been kind of going on for years, and it's kind of been getting done, but we're getting more meadows and more trails, and it's tough.
Do we want to set ourselves up for probably be December budgetary meetings so that we can actually request through official budget channels some increase in appropriations to handle this? Whether that's through conservation that then contracts the services, or frankly adds money to Chris Stoddard's budget to accommodate doing this type of activity.
I would like to see that. I mean, right now I'm carrying $900 for Sam Bell to mow Mary Shepherd. But if all this came out of the cell tower fund, we wouldn't have anything left to do anything else. So I do think it needs to be either a separate budget item, or, as you say, my preference would be to, get Chris some budget to do it. I don't know.
So, I mean, I think what we should do is then start with what's the worst case scenario list of things that we would need to maintain with town or private resources. And then maybe we collectively can take a look at that. And I would suggest that we plan on getting in front of FinCom sooner rather than later, so that they know that this is coming. Even if it is only a few $1,000s, in the grand scheme of things, they don't like surprises.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah, it's a good suggestion.
And then they will tell us what they need and want in terms of backup supports, justification, et cetera. But we shouldn't go in just with that in hand.
Yeah. All right, good. And of course, this goes also back to the old thing of trying to get the Open Space Committee to be an open space and not an open space and recreation implementation, whatever they are, whatever you are, Andrew.
Yeah.
It would be nice if open space could sort of take that off of the Concoms.
Yeah, and I was thinking maybe we could do like what a lot of other communities do, where maybe we could come up with a joint subcommittee of the ConsCom made up of maybe a couple members of our board and a couple of trust board members and maybe a couple of citizens involved in stewardship, and just kind of have a steering committee for directing land stewardship rather than putting that on one or two people. And at least the commission would have more direct oversight in those activities rather than just the trust basically running everything. Because that's the way it's been done for years. And the commission really should have more oversight, considering that we have the majority of the property. So something to look into, in terms of managing the lands. But maybe that could be the Open Space Committee, or maybe it'd be a new committee formed under this board.
Sorry.
Because that kind of leads into one of the other things I wanted to bring up, is that how unilateral can I get on some of these decisions, as it were? And my specific example right now is that we're putting up the swing signs, more of the swing signs, and in particular the Joyce Williams property down on Boxborough. I just wanted to call that part of Newtown Hill, and add a little thing on the bottom of the sign saying it's the Williams Trails. So it's acknowledged rather than calling it the Williams property, because it wasn't donated. we bought it. So I don't know how you all feel about that or how you want to handle stuff like that. Browns Woods, I think we're sort of stuck with Browns Woods anyway.
Yeah, I have the same feeling as you, though. I would rather things that are donated, I want to carry the name of the person that donated. It's something that's purchased at an arm's length transaction for arguably a better price than you could get in the open market, but maybe not. You know, some acknowledgement is good, but I don't think we need to go crazy naming things after people who choose to sell things for reasonable
And frankly,
prices.
I think it also makes it easier on the trail maps too. Here's Newtown Hill, and here all the trails are in Newtown Hill. Because the one that drives me crazy is Yap and Cobb's Woods and Cobb's Forest, and I don't know, that whole complex in there is another example. Well, I'm not going to change anything's there, but I don't know how you felt about it. And we have, I can get one kiosk, which I was thinking of putting in Hartwell. And I don't know if you think that's the best place for it to go. The other two options were Long Lake Park, but there's kind of a kiosk there, not much of one, or Mary Shepherd. And I backed off of Mary Shepherd because that trail hasn't even been mowed, let alone the new loop trail piece of it. So I thought it might be good in Hartwell.
It hasn't been mowed, or is the budget that's coming out for next year? I thought you just said we have budget.
Sam will mow the entire field. He won't be mowing the trail once a month so people can walk through it. That's two different things.
Well, my opinion on these is both the naming and the trail location is that I'm a big fan of benevolent dictatorships here.
Me too.
Make good, smart decisions, and I'll stay out of your hair. But that's only my take. I don't think we need to get bogged down in individual minutia type things like this.
Well, I did realize that you started realizing, I'm making some sort of executive decisions here, and I wanted to make sure you were all kind of aware of that.
Yeah.
Especially if Jim and Rick don't always agree with me. All right. And then just the last bit on that, the SVT is holding a Weed Warrior event at Browns Woods this Saturday, I guess, actually. I think we got a dozen or so people signed up for it to learn how to do invasive species management.
That's good. That's a good.
Yeah, SVT does like a really serious Weed Warrior certification, the whole 9 yards. I don't think we need to go that far, but it helps people learn how to tell the difference between the bad plants and the good plants and how to pull them up. So they offered to do that.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. That's good.
Disappointed nobody reached out to Gage to sponsor that. No.
The what?
Oh. Yeah, it was good. But
we'll slow there.
I got it, Chase.
I had you. Yeah.
It went right over my head, Chase. I don't know what you're talking
I was
about.
wondering why you were saying I was like, wait, we just asked how the response was. What do you mean you want to gauge response? All right. Got it.
I'm on vacation next week.
Sweet.
And stuff that I wanted to add is you need to decide on a meeting date and place. Because I know there was some talk about switching to Tuesdays, which seemed okay with everybody. That way we can avoid the same days as select board. And the meeting locations could be the new library, room 103, the fire department, or I think the police department when we start meeting in person again. I was kind of leaning towards 103.
Yeah.
Library sounds nice.
Library sounds nice, but then I have to cross the parking lot.
I don't have a strong opinion.
So would we do like Tuesday nights at 7? Are we thinking, or?
Yeah, I don't know if anybody had an opinion on starting time. It's come up every now and then.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't know that would change. Oh, okay. So
Not too early would be my vote, but 7 or 7:30 are both good as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, 7:30. I can participate in dinner if it's at 7:30, which definitely makes a difference with like, family. 7:15 would work.
7. What Julie's saying is it enhances her ability to serve as chair, I think.
Whatever the chairperson wants, I support.
So why don't we stick with Monday nights at 7:30 for now? And maybe in the fall, when all these things the rooms become available, we can at least maybe switch the night, if not the virtual piece of this.
Yeah, that's what I thought. The night was tied to the need for a room and losing 307, and I'm trying to work around that. I mean, I'm fine on Mondays at 7:30 till further notice too.
Yeah, they are trying to kick everybody except for the select board, off of Monday nights.
Oh, okay. I mean, I
I would definitely support that.
Yeah. No, I think that makes sense. There's certainly, hearings that I would have, attended.
Although it's nice if we meet Monday nights, I can make them put us on at 6:30 because we got a conflict.
Also that.
Good excuse.
Okay,
All right.
so it sounds like we're just sticking with what we got for now, virtually, and right?
Yep.
Okay, unless you want us off on Monday now, I guess.
No, I got stuff already scheduled for August 23rd. So we just need to think about it in advance.
Okay.
Can't switch it too fast.
We can do that.
Metro West Conservation Alliance, or whoever they are, is going to do a pollinator presentation probably July 30th. I'm hoping in the new library, and I'm hoping the new library will have their pollinator garden installed by then.
On
July 30th, as in like.
Thank you.
Next year?
September 30th.
Oh, okay. I was like, whoa.
I'm having a real problem with
That's
my
like 4 days
months right
away.
now.
I drove by there
What are you talking about?
3 hours ago. That would be really fast.
The two, actually 3 things that some applicants wanted your input in. 26 Deer Run, which is on Lake Mattawanakie, and they did a house moving around, a little bit of things like that. And some of the mitigation included replanting the bank in front of them, which was devoid of vegetation. In the 2 years while they were building, that bank has grown up really nicely. And it's got 3 to 6 foot oak trees, birch, low bush blueberry. There's some other stuff in there, an elm in there. So they were asking, do they really need to rip all that out in order to put in plants? And it's basically 100% vegetated with native. So I said, yeah, I don't think you need to do any more, if that sounds reasonable to you all.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like plants that we recommend all the time. And
did it by itself.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought.
Sounds like a good mix. I mean, I don't know if others have concerns or thoughts, but
I'm surprised there's an elm. I mean,
well, it may not last, but it's in there.
Interesting.
I heard it too. I know that's the lot where they took out a couple huge pines, right? Like on the side of the house. Is that the same one?
I forget. And it had the old stone fireplace on the roadside of things.
Yeah.
So it's looking pretty nice.
Okay.
Hager Homestead, I have a plan I can pull up if you want. They would like to do what they would like to call a red line change, which planning board has already approved as a red line change. Up in one corner, they're relocating the barn. And so up in that corner, there was the barn and the stormwater basin. And the barn was closer to the wetland. The stormwater basin was further away. They want to flop that. So mostly because they have, when they access the barn, it's closer to the units and less need for a driveway and pavement and that sort of stuff. it doesn't change the character of anything. It doesn't change the drainage or any of that stuff. So I told Bruce I would check in and see if y'all had any issues with that. Do you want me to pull up the plan for you?
Sounds like an overall positive if it's reducing impervious.
Yeah,
It's a minor decrease in impervious, and for me, it gets the building away from the wetland, a structure away from the wetland.
You can.
I guess my concern there would be if they're moving the stormwater basin, if it has any infiltration component to it, if they're dropping the elevation and getting closer to the seasonal high water table, they could actually screw up the infiltration pretty badly.
Green has looked at it as part of the planning board
Okay.
review. So they did look at that. Or I don't know if that was specifically, but they looked at the whole change.
Okay, but a grown-up looked at it.
Yes.
Okay.
Wonder how Bruce would like it if you knew you called him a not grown up.
Well, I'll let him know.
I think Bruce knows we think he needs supervision. That's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. He thinks you do too.
Yeah, and no doubt.
Yeah, very
Reminded
much mutual.
about I guess one of our big sticking points on this one was how projects avoid the 0 to 50, and then like 90% of the 50 to 100 is developed, and so that was a major conversation for this project. So if we make any gains in pervious surface, and a grown-up looked at the stormwater, as Chase brought up, it sounds like a positive thing.
And then, yeah, I think the last one is SVT. I think it was great you guys all went out there and spent like at least an hour looking at the invasives and what they're doing out there. They would like to request an amended notice of intent to discuss the possibility of using some herbicides in the 50 to 100 foot buffer zone. And I said I would just get a laugh test from you all that an amended notice of intent seems appropriate as opposed to a whole new notice of intent. Just keep it all in the same file.
I wouldn't make them do a whole new filing. I mean, amended seems like it'll go through the same thorough process. As long as we have another hearing, of course, to hash everything out. But I wouldn't make them file a new.
With amended, they still are going to have to put it in the newspaper again, notify the abutters anyway.
Right. That would be my piece to make sure, because there are a lot of interested neighbors.
Yeah, which they would notify anyway. And I don't think DEP likes having a separate notice of intent for the exact same thing on the exact same property. So
yeah, no, that doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. I would ask. I know Laura provided the updated risk assessment. One of the other pieces that I would like to revisit, if with the request, would be mobility and groundwater. That was a major concern, and I don't know that anything would have changed since then. So I would say if she's aware of anything that may have changed since then from that component, it would be helpful to know that.
Yep. Okay. So you may see that August 9th. I'm not sure how fast she'll get anything in.
Okay.
I basically told her I needed it by tomorrow to get on August 9th. So.
Yeah, I mean, in the interest of the public too, even if she is able to get it in tomorrow, I may be inclined to push it to the 23rd anyway. In other words, I don't want to fast track it, understanding that tomorrow hits the deadlines formally and all that.
No, it won't be fast tracked.
I don't want to be accused of fast tracking it, I guess.
I don't necessarily believe it, but 5 Cottage Way might be back on August 9th. Healy Corner is still pushed out to August 23rd. And 107 Mattawanagee has to go to October at this point.
5 Cottage Way, talk to Cricket about holding tanks. All right. What else?
That was it. Thank you for your patience.
I have one question so I got a message from someone a few weeks back and kind of lost track of it about observing a like pesticide or landscaping company filling their water tank in their truck from Long Lake from a hose. Is that legit? I've never.
I think under state regulations, you can withdraw from rivers, lakes. I'm pretty sure you can.
Yeah.
Just
It's kind of an odd.
It's odd when you see it happening, but
Yeah.
I think it's legal.
It comes up every now and then, and I mentioned to someone else, if they're doing it, once or twice from a body of water, I don't care if it's become like suddenly an industrial use or whatever, where they're constantly doing a withdrawal, I'd have another issue with it. And as long as they're not backwashing into.
Well, and I mean, what technology do they have to ensure they're not backwashing? And so there's some of that too. I wonder if we need to tighten up or some local regulations around that, because I mean, it's wet this year, but the past few years have been pretty dry. The lakes were low.
Yeah, I might just check with DEP and see what she says about the circuit rider says about it.
Yeah. Okay.
Or Anna might have an insight. All right.
One other thing, Amy, is
come up, one time we were sampling a lake and we saw that happening actually. So we never got a clear answer about whether or not that's legal. I guess it's kind of a gray area.
Yeah, I think people kind of don't want to touch it to a degree.
Yeah.
One final thing, Amy, I was going by the water department's work on Whitcomb when it was raining, and their construction entrance is a disaster and a half. We probably don't need to make a big deal of it, but they've got to ride their contractor harder. There was a torrent of mud coming out of that place. And the skim of half-inch stone that they threw down wasn't accomplishing much.
I'm gonna call Corey tomorrow anyway about the Spectacle Pond water level. So I'll mention that to him too.
I feel like that's something that we could, not us, but somebody in town could say to all construction properties on site.
Well, that's probably true.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. That reminds me. The K bike trail into the town forest at 6 Douglas Road, where there's, what were they going to do with it? They put in the stone dust. The stone dust is eroding like crazy. Well, apparently they never recorded that easement on the deed. So the owner there is suing them, and Dave Guthrie is extremely embarrassed. The attorney is extremely embarrassed. She's like ready to give up her license. So something different is going to have to happen in there. Whether or not they can come to agreement with the owner and keep it where it is and fix it. Because right now the stone dust is mostly in the road. Because the other option is a really long trail through the Hergay property and across a wetland with a big long boardwalk that they would pay for. So I did mention at the department head meeting this morning that I've been for years thinking it'd be nice if the Hergay property was transferred to Conservation Commission, or at least in part. And if this trail ends up going that direction, I may try to push that a little bit, but we'll see where it goes.
So I'd like to welcome Chase back to the board. I'm not sure.
There you go.
Not sure if you've already done that or not, but I'm extremely happy that he's back. He wasn't here long enough on his first stint. And
I don't think our first applicant tonight was happy to see me.
And
I second that, Carl, even though I wasn't around for the first round.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be back. Thanks, Carl.
Yeah, and your experience on the as a selectman is really, really cool to have. You know?
Yeah, hopefully we can put that to good use and make sure that we, frankly, one of my personal goals is we got it in the budget in my last year as a selectman as someone to help Amy, and then COVID happened and it all went away.
Yeah.
But I'm hopeful that knowing the channels makes that a little more possible for us to advocate for that.
Yeah, it's still sort of kind of there, and Ed Mullen is pushing for it with the reorganization stuff, but I'm back to I'll believe it when I see it. There's been a lot of turnover and a lot of more high priority hires going on.
My other request is that on Chase's nameplate, I'd like to have Dr. Gerbig on there.
Too late. I'm using the old one.
And
I can just refer to him like that.
yeah, I think we should adds credibility to the board. And I just wanted to also clarify my motion at the beginning. Just wanted to make sure that we have Sarah as the assistant, and then Andrew is I think I said co-chair, but Andrew is the fill-in behind Julie when Sarah's not here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Andrew's sort of the interim co-chair.
Yes, when Sarah's not here. I just want to make sure
Yes.
I want to make sure that was clear in the notes.
It will be, and you'll have to read the minutes next time to make sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh God, that was a low hit, but I'll take that one.
Oh, geez.
In fact, I'll make sure it's not in there, and you'll have to go find it.
All right. Okay. Anything else?
Would it make sense then to maybe have a clerk position so that if the chair isn't here, the vice chair isn't here, the clerk could run the meeting?
Move to appoint Andrew Samarco as the Conservation Commission clerk.
We're starting to. Would that mean that we don't have 3 of our normal? Will we even have quorum at that point?
Oh yeah.
They still count as quorum, or even if we could still have it without the 3 of them, technically.
I think the clerk should have to do the roll call.
We would have to be there.
Oh, Carl, I don't want to take your job though.
No, you can take notes. I already second Chase's motion.
Oh, I just want to make a note that the Long Lake Neighborhood Association will be scheduling a aquatic invasive training with DCR during lunchtime on a Monday or Tuesday in probably September. So I will let you guys know when it's happening, and it would be great if any of you can come. They do a really good job with actual plants, and a key. You'll get a free key, aquatic invasive key. So,
You guys want to vote on Andrew as clerk?
Yeah, we need Carl to do the roll call. It's not Andrew's job yet.
Just one more time.
Okay. Kyle Melberg, aye. Kyle Maxfield,
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Andrew Samarco,
Andrew Samarco, aye.
Brian Crowley,
Brian Crowley, aye.
Julie Rupp,
Julie Rupp, aye.
and Chase Gerbig.
This Kirby guy.
It's unanimous to adjourn.
Andrew's got another title.
Hey.
All right, great. Congrats, Andrew.
Well, thank you.
Okay. Does anyone have anything else? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Kyle
Second.
seconded.
Roll call. Kyle Melberg, aye. Kyle Maxfield,
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Andrew Samarco,
Andrew Samarco, aye.
Brian Crowley,
Brian Crowley, aye.
Julie Rupp,
Julie Rupp, aye.
Chase Gerbig.
This Kirby guy.
Unanimous?
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good
Have a
night.
nice
Thursday at 5:30, wherever that is.
Cricket.
Sounds good.